number 4.
Indeed, scoreline being 2-1. Fat Penguin coming up with a win in the previous game, as they're once again gonna have the cold colors with the Abbasids, Delhi, and the Rus, Neptune, YUImetal, and CsOH on the playing field. Whereas on the other side, once again, no Magic. It's gonna be Vam, Poppy, and Kasva with the warm colors.
Wow. And by the way, this catches me off guard. Like I hadn't seen Golden Heights played in the 3v3 yet. I thought it would spawn you all next to the cliff sides, but this essentially, like, now it feels like we've got so the left side players are playing Lipany, the central players are playing Dry Arabia, and the right side players are playing Boulder Bay. Like, what is this generation?
Yeah, the thing that really is visible, though, on the minimap is how distant the players are compared to each other. This is not one of those Dry Arabia generations where you're relatively close to your teammates. Each and every player is very far apart from the others, and this could be an interesting detail that possibly could even be exploited by a Burgrave play, should we see that from Puppy Paw. It seems much easier to isolate one player from the teammates than it is on standard land maps, let's say.
Yes. And something to consider is, like, Yui's the central player, so he can be annoying and just push out for the left side sacred sites, right? And in that situation, he'll always keep maybe Poppy Paw looking there to decap, or one of his teammates has to run across the entire map to deal with that capture situation. So it's an interesting thing to think about. When you look on the right side, we mentioned this whole idea of, like, what would happen with the lake. I think the picture becomes clear now. It's Abbasid versus Rus, and we've seen how that usually matches up. The Abbasid player can eventually just spam out extra docks and get in placements. So the Rus player has to win early skirmishes, which he can do if he wants to stand any chance of long-term investment on water.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see how big of an investment we are gonna have on water, though, because that's, as you said, it's a bit of a bait. If you look at all the deep fish positioning, it's very far away from your starting docks. It's not even a lot of fish to work with, so long-term sustainability is not there. Now, one thing that you could have long-term sustainability with, possibly, is trade. You do have a pretty decent corner to trade to on the left side, and it's relatively easily wallable. We have seen some teams, especially in 2v2s, experimenting trading to that corner and then walling it off.
That is, I mean, it definitely is very feasible in this type of generation. And by the way, something to keep in mind here, like, people wonder, why is the other Rus player not near the lake? That's something we can't fully control, folks. I can't. Like, I believe it still works this way, if someone wants to correct me if I'm wrong, but the way it's always worked in team games is you can only predict the safe player's position, the central one, right, via lobby position. So if that is still the way it works, which from everyone I talk to, it seems to be the case, the other two are flipping a coin. So in this situation, the Rus player, I don't know if it was really their hopes and dreams to have blue off far as away from the lakes as possible. But that's the way it's played out. I mean, luckily for them, having the Abbasid player does give them a way of being annoying for Kasva on the Rus, though.
It definitely makes it a little bit more challenging for players to adapt to the game. Then again, this kind of tests the ability of the players to adapt to these spawns. And this has always been the case in Age of Empires Folks. You go back to AOE2, for example, same thing. You can control who's playing pocket and who's playing flank, but you cannot control who's playing which side. So, yes, there's that variability, and I think this is one of the more appealing elements of team games. You have to be able to adapt to both circumstances.
It's another layer to the strategy you have to consider, like an RNG element. You want to pick two civs that can actually function on either flank. So, like, for Puppy Paw, he either gets a more defensive location or increased eco benefits, right? And then for a Rus player, well, you can either have a funnel location with a lot of wood, and then you can push out knights, or you have fishing. And then the Abbasid player we already mentioned, right? Just basically dock up the wazoo and block out your opponent from getting anything here.
Yeah, for the time being, it's just a nice little shared friendly fishing here between Kasva and Neptune. But Kasva will have the upper hand when it comes to naval combat initially. Obviously, he's going to be a little delayed compared to the Abbasid player clicking up the Feudal Age, but he can accelerate his progress by just committing more villagers to the Golden Gate. Whereas for Neptune, it's a preset time, and in all certainty, Kasva should beat him to Feudal Age, and of course, convert a couple of fishing ships to combat vessels to push away those fishing ships.
And, well, looks like Wham has already set up a cheeky building that could maybe see him go towards his signature trade. We'll have to see if that comes down the line. Of course, the main deal right now is he gets this down to make sure he can't be burnt at the beginning, at the opening. Usually you see Marlene players do this if their gold vein is further away and they're worried about potential early aggression.
Yeah, now, what exactly are the landmarks that we're going up with? That's a big question. We have
so we have the
network.
Saharan. Yeah. That's what I was saying. Like you build this outpost. Usually, if you're worried you're going to be raided on your gold vein, that's the #1 reason you see a lot of players do it. It's very effective against players like Mongols if you get up quick enough. But it could also be trade because of what you mentioned. Like the layout of this map is very beneficial for the play on the left side or in the pocket position to set up trade long term.
Yeah, I simply like the upside of it. As you said, primary role is to defend the gold mine, but the bigger thing here is that you always keep the window open for possible trading in the future. We'll have to see if that's going to be a thing. But one thing we know already is that Kasva, he's going to sink most of Neptune's fishing eco here, and we already have CsOH coming in here for Puppy Paw. So initial momentum is heavily on the side of the Beavers.
I'm a little bit perplexed by this choice by Neptune as well. Like, notice that it was actually Kasva that got the central dock down. So he's able to aggress more because he can just lean around on this shoreline and always get healed on the way in. Meanwhile, Neptune went for a condensed double dock line here. Looks like he's going to be content with shoreline fish, but that means he's getting vastly inferior gatherings compared to his roost counterpart in this lake.
Yeah, on the other side, CsOH is operating with professional scouts, by the way, so he's going to have a decent amount of food to work with. Also walling off the far left side. And now, I guess the question becomes, who is going to be your #1 target if you're Puppy Paw? If it was... Oh, yeah, go ahead.
You can't go after CsOH, right? Like these walls, they'll just keep getting perma repaired because you're only building melee. So you're probably looking to target... I want to say Yui. Like, Yui seems like the obvious one, but you could also find a way in which, like, if Kasva builds into Knights next, you could just target out Neptune first. And just... It sounds weird because you're on the opposite side of the map, though, right?
Oh, that's true. I would personally love to see them target Neptune, because this would just play into the entire game plan of Puppy Paw's team so well. Once again, you help out Kasva against Neptune, make sure Kasva secures water by weakening Neptune on land, and then Kasva can just get away with a greedy boom and then contribute later on. Would just have such a good level of synergy with what they so commonly do.
Yeah, and speaking of that greed, we are seeing the fast double castle as expected. Puppy Paw and Wham both making their way up. And the cool thing is because we're playing on a water map and Kasva has the roofs, isn't necessarily going to be too far behind his compadres here due to the inflated gathering rates he's going to be getting compared to the land map we saw them play out earlier.
That's a big thing. And those inflated gather rates are showing on the water as well. Neptune is somewhat struggling to put Navy on the field. He already has 2 Baglas. But on the other side, Kasva's got a vastly superior fleet, and this guarantees Kasva access to the deep fish, whereas on the other side, as you said, Neptune just has to settle with the shorefish.
Yeah, it's actually kind of fitting that the Canadian bros don't like doing feudal age, considering that Canada didn't exist until long after. You know, maybe they should always go and rush Imperial than the time when they were created. Kind of fits.
Oh, chop through coming through. Puppy got through the first layer. Second layer is about to be chopped through. Third layer now coming in. And this is why you said that you don't want to push CsOH. It's going to take so much time to get through these walls. So much time is wasted here for Puppy.
Yeah, you might want to rename the CsOH no. As in, oh no, why have I made this choice? He's still got room for, what, another 2 layers at least? This is not going to stop. And remember, these are 4 or 5 palisade walls. Sure, they take longer to build, but they take a hell of a long time to kill as well. And once you reach this final wall, like, realistically, CsOH could just repair it indefinitely. In fact, I would have loved to have seen CsOH build an archery range, get 2 or 3 archers, and you can't even go for the chop through.
Yeah, that would have been such a nice thing to do. In the meantime, we don't see much contribution so far from Yui. He just went straight to CsOH, and it's going to be a crossbow play from him. So by the time these man-at-arms arrive, you're going to have some deli crossbowmen ready to meet them.
And well, in the meantime, the Knight count is also building up on the defensive, so I hope there's some heavy maces ready in the hands of Puppy Paw for what awaits him. And like you're saying, Yui, with those crossbows now coming out, the fact he's reached up in CsOH, we haven't actually seen him target those sacred sites at all, which is an interesting detail to think about here. I guess it's due to the position of the HRE player, it wasn't even an option at the beginning. Wait, what? Weird fight to want to take here. CsOH says, not one step back, I need room to build another wall, before realizing there's no way he can build one. That's a lot of dead knights for nothing gained.
Yeah, and Mace is just now kicked in, so that wasn't even a perfect fight for Puppy. They need a little bit more time for those crossbows to arrive from Yui, so You don't want to go bloodthirsty here. He's going to have to pull back those knights, just sacrifice some ground. But where are those crossbowmen? They are needed here.
They are not on the way at all. There we go. Finally they left the base. They're like, well, I had to put on my my bibs. I had to put on my boots. You know, I had to get dressed before I leave the house. Finally, they are on the way, but only 5 of them. You know, in this count, if enough men-at-arms come through, they'll just surge over you. Luckily, the men-at-arms count isn't at that number quite yet, but it's increasing to above 20. At which stage, this many crossbows won't win.
And the scary detail here is that those crossbows might just be too late to the party, and even if they clean this up, the damage that's being done to CSO is just massive.
Yep.
So much of this possibly could have been avoided, and should they lose this game, they could easily look at this moment, CSO getting damaged this heavily, as the turning point.
But later, they're getting damaged on both flanks as well. The other thing we have to remember is, I believe, Wham, did he take the javelins into the base of Neptune? So they're shutting down both flank players at the same time. Like, look how much idle economy CSO has. Sure, that's a lot of dead men at arms, but don't worry, folks. It's the HRE. There's a lot of wood on this map. Farms are being set up. This will not stop.
And look at that. They take just one strategy out of the book of their opponents, adding the Javelin Warriors with the Farimba garrison to the south as well. So now those crossbows will be insufficient to hold. And while the army was cleaned up, the results are visible. We do have a 25 eco lead in the favor of Puppy's team already.
Yeah, the only upside for them, the only reason this is not relentless is, of course, they do have that wooden fortress up that Roost players build in the opening. That's preventing a quick dive into CSO's base further, now that crossbows have arrived. But they are still losing, essentially, on both flanks here. They're pinned in their base. Their central player has to react on this flank. And meanwhile, on the eastern flank, it's a clear win for Kasva. He's pressed Neptune right up against the shores with no way of definitively staying out on the deep seas.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And remember what we talked about once again. It's this team. 3 Beavers and Turkey almost always play a 2v3, and they rotate who is the one that's going greedy and not contributing much on the battlefield. Soon, that is going to be Vamp. He's setting up the trade while they are distracting the opponents with all this aggression. Once again, such a good synergy in that team.
So you're saying Wham is trading? I've never heard that one before in large-scale games. So it almost feels like these walls are actually benefiting them that CSO has put up, because CSO doesn't want to come past these walls. You see with that many villagers, he just wants to rebuild them. He's like, stay the hell out, which Wham will be very happy to oblige with now.
Yeah, exactly. After so much damage done, they are going to be more than happy to just stay outside of those walls and then possibly just march to the east, although they might not even have to, because Neptune is getting punched in the face over here. Cut off from the wood. He can't even make more ships.
I was watching on the minimap for a while, Lidakor. Like, he's been doing laps. I believe Wham had a 5-man group of javelins going round the base in circles for like the last 2 to 3 minutes. It's been really annoying. I think like it's deceptive because Neptune has had a lot more idle eco than is first apparent.
Yeah, this is just so ugly now. And yeah, look at that.
That's not even an efficient way to use boom ships, but okay, it works anyway.
Yeah, he just wanted to get rid of those docks easy peasy, and well, hit it just that. Oh, nice though.
God. He only knows this is going on because he came for the deer. All right, well, more men-at-arms are most definitely going to be needed in this area soon.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you have to address this. The bigger concern, though, is that most of those traders have already slipped past. You already have like 1,000 gold coming in for Wham. He's going to try to rush up some walls, but I feel like...
I don't think that works. All the javelins here, right? Like, yeah, leave. Get out of here. Scram, you gits. Although Poppypool will also have to do the scramming. He thought he could come out here and gather berries. Wait, what? Ignore them. Keep gathering. We have a quota to make here. Let the men-at-arms do their job. And with the extra wave of javelin throwers, they most definitely will do the damage across the Fat Penguins on the west side.
The Burgrave and the Farimba garrison are coming in clutch over there, and really they're just overpowering those knights, so they can get away with that trade. Now Kasva has an untouched fishing eco on the east side, massive eco lead, and now Kasva's gonna reach Castle Age as well. It is going to be 3 Castle Age players against just 1, and to me right now the puzzling detail is, where is Yui? We haven't really seen much from him so far, and his flanks are being demolished.
It's funny you mentioned where is Yui. I was about to go, now you decide to capture the sacred sites? 15 minutes in, he finally moved out to capture one of them, but it feels like a moot detail, right? Like, sure, you'll have a little bit of gold trickle. You can turn these into TCs down the line. Problem I see for Yui is by the time he can turn these into town centers, I'm not really sure if he'll have teammates anymore.
Yeah, it's somewhat puzzling. Felt like he just wanted to boom at the back. Felt that the teammates will be strong enough to hold, but that wasn't really the case out there. Both flanks got battered pretty heavily, and this is getting increasingly worse because now you have some Donsos supporting as well. Men at Arms once again coming in, and those walls won't hold long.
Yeah, and remember, these wooden fortresses, sure, they do get extra health by default, but the difference, one value that you have when you fortify outposts on other civs is you get extra torch armor. You don't get that with a wooden fortress, so if this ever ends up unguarded, it's not going to last very long. That's why I like the keep investment. This will at least keep them at bay. Problem I see is keeping them at bay is not good enough. The trade is still going on behind this. They are benefiting from this stalemate.
For sure. And you see, CsOH is just now coming in here for Neptune, so there is a massive window of opportunity here for Puppey and Kasva to do damage. And if you look at Wham, he stopped making army. Same story. They are realizing that they have the upper hand. There's no reason for him to commit to more army. He can afford to be greedy, just commit all his resources to trade, and then be the difference maker 5 minutes from now.
And the funny part is once you have enough trade online, well, for Imba Garrison, all it needs is gold, but nice little raid at least coming out from Yui. Is going to distract them away, but needs to do more than this. I wouldn't be surprised now, after that's happened, that first raid, if we just see walls come out. It's always the awkward detail. Like, you want to get that raid in quickly, but the first one might just tip off the weakness in your opponent's plan.
Yeah, and the problem right now for Yui is that he's controlling one sacred site out there with a keep even, but they don't have the military momentum to secure the other one. You could think about kind of playing an all-in style approach here for Fat Penguin, going for the other sacred site and just trying to win with the sacred site countdown, but they simply don't have the power to capture that.
Honestly, it feels like these Fat Penguins won't be fat for long at this rate. They have to run everywhere, don't they? They have to respond to the left flank. They need to respond to these raids coming in from Kasva. They also need to find a way to run across the map and stop the trade. Right now, if both sides just went and chilled, 3 Beavers and a Turkey, their win rate, their win percentage chance, probability at least, goes up. It's actually on Fat Penguin to find a way of doing some serious damage here.
Yeah, that's the problem. They have to make something happen, but they are the ones on the back foot. And now Kasva's coming online. He's got a good fishing eco. He's up to CsOH. He's even sending resources to his teammate while still being a factor on the battlefield.
I mean, he has got the fishing going, in fairness. Like, the Wham's like, Kasva, come on, we let you have the lake. Give me some food. Okay, I guess I can do that. You know, it's like infinite food at a great gathering rate. It's not like I need it. Keep attempt in the center, but I don't think you can hold it. It's not going to be close at all. It's just Yui here. He can't defend this alone. He's like, where are my team? They're dead, Yui. You took too long. You're now the one who has to carry the center fights.
Oh, it's too little too late. As you said, we're reaching the critical mass of men at arms where they just overrun all those crossbows, especially when you have javelin support for them. It's 150 army against 60. This keep might stall this push out for a brief moment, but don't forget, this keep likely doesn't have boiling oil on it, so you could possibly even commit here if you're Puppey and Wham.
Also, hear me out here, Lidakor. Magano line, Magano line. What if we just go around the keep? Like, what if we just go right and then down the center to Yui's base or to Neptune's base? Because we don't even need to necessarily go through this keep, right? It's protecting a sacred site, which is giving you 150 gold. That is literally all he's getting out of this. No win condition, no tick down, because the other sacred site is in no man's land.
Exactly. And right now, Kasva's gonna be more than enough on the right side. Looks like they're going to shift Yui's knights to the right, but this is just a ghost signal for Wham and Puppey. They can just dive as much as they want because they know that Yui is not there. Some raids, but once again, these are superficial damage, really.
Oh no, it's just it's gonna be an outright loss. Like, he doesn't really achieve much of the raid. I think he killed like maybe 2 free traders max. It just doesn't feel good enough here. There's just too much trade coming out, and in the meantime, the military trade, like, Kasva is delaying 2 players in this area long enough that Wham has now arrived, and with Donzos in the area, you just have no way of standing your ground against this, because if you do, you're gonna die.
Exactly, and you look at the numbers, we're not just looking at a few Donzos, we're looking at 66 overall on the battlefield. That's ridiculous. It's a full infantry comp. It's almost 70 Donzos, almost 60 of the men at arms on the playing field as well, but...
Just put the trader there. Just sit the trader there. Just do it. Go on.
He's not noticing, though.
He doesn't know. Oh. He's like, I've stopped him now. Watch these traders walk into my base and die. Okay, it's cute, but you do still have quite the mountain to climb when I look at the military pop cap. That's the bigger concern for me right now. It's a triple up in favor of 3 Beavers and a turkey.
Oh, yeah, like, this feels like just silver lining right now for Fat Penguin. Sure enough, they kind of cripple the trade for the time being, but good luck stopping this. I feel like 3 Beavers and a turkey have gotten what they wanted out of that trade, and they just need to right-click inside the base of either of these players, and it is going to be a complete destruction.
I think they really want to kill Neptune, but obviously the issue is, like, you bring 2 static armies to the other side of the map, like, you might get killed on your eco, right? So that's one thing that is working out for Fat Penguin, is Neptune essentially looking like the most crippled player and the most exposed is beneficial because he's so far away. But this army is reaching a point where it might just go anyway. Like, look at how many troops this is. You mentioned it already. Now over 60 Donzos. They're looking to make sure that Fat Penguin are done with this game.
Yeah, I feel like now they have to commit. They are realizing that if they drag this out long, there might be a window for Neptune's team to come back. They have a massive power spike right now. They just need to commit, and that's what they're going to do. And if you look at Neptune's army, it's laughable, to say the most positive things about it I can think of. And it's even worse. CsOH is just now aging, so he just spent a bunch of his resources on Castle Age and
units. He has nothing in the field either. This is all just YUImetal. All right, and he's going to be as hard. He's going to need to be as hard as metal if he wants to hold this. I just don't think he can on his own. They finally realized, why are we wasting time? We're ready to party. Let's play it out like it's Mario Party as a team.
Yeah, I don't think that Neptune can hold this. Maybe if CsOH is shifting to this side, there could be a glimpse of hope. He's got 30 Lancers and 28 crossbows, so let's not overlook that. But instead, he wants to dive in and do damage. I don't know. This is risky. Donzos could hold against that, and then you just lose your flank.
I mean, you're losing Neptune, so now you need to find value elsewhere. They're like, don't worry, Neptune. We got the sacred sites. We done it. The time has been started. Yeah, but do you guys think you can hold 2v3 for 10 minutes? We'll deal with that bridge when it comes.
The Lancers, they will find some value inside YUIme's base, but that still won't address the issue of having overwhelming numbers inside Neptune's base. And YUIme still will be able to add some Donzos back at home to slowly grind down those Knights. And look at that left side, completely unaddressed by CsOH. Bleeding villagers there as well. Gigantic population lead for Poppy's team now.
Is it me, or are those few men at arms on the left flank from Prizepool going to do just as much damage to eco as this Lancer raid on the backside? I actually think they've been full and baited. Like, the count of traders isn't as high as I think they assumed, so these Lancers aren't regularly doing anything, right? They're just running around like headless chickens, funnily enough.
It's actually worse than that. Penguin. I think all the traders are idle because of those walls. They're not doing anything. They sent in the Knights to kill the traders who are completely idle right now, while sacrificing Neptune to those forces. Yeah, look at that. Where are the traders?
There's 21 of them. I mean, he might have just... I felt like he must have garrisoned them, because I can't spot them on the mini-map.
But they're most definitely not working. They can't even do that, because the walls are still up.
There's going to be a harsh discussion, I think, had between two of the players here. Why are you going for the trade, bro? I already dealt with the trade. Why don't we try dealing with this army instead? No bueno, sir. Yui, you're the only one with an army. And by the way, half of your army is on the other bloody side of the map.
I mean, at this point, they don't need to care about those Knights. Even if YUIme loses every single villager he still has 100+ units on the field that would just level the base of Yui here. And that castle, that's not going up, ladies and gents. Or is it?
Neptune's like, please, can I be part of this base now? Are you sure you want to be part of this base when it's being destroyed? This is probably not the best time for this. Neptune seems appropriate for his name because he's been constantly drowning in this game, and that will hold true through to the very end. YUIme says, me Dunzo? No, you Dunzo. Oh, good God. What a game out of Free Beavers in Turkey.
Yeah, I love that they, in a way, copycatted what they have seen in the previous game from their opponents. Men-at-arms and javelin throwers, but once again, great synergy between them. Just having two players being the dominant players on the battlefield, the third one sitting a little behind, going a little greedy. This is what set up Wham with that trade, which initially set up his infantry flood. Kasva did a great job on the water as well, and the team coordination just seemed a little better as well. We talked about this in the pregame. Their civilizations seem to have had a higher upside, and I think it was visible in this game.
Yeah, I think, I remember a bunch of us, lol, like we discussed it. We were all the opinion that, Marlians are just F tier. What people didn't realize is we meant fantastic tier. Yeah, is that they're very, very good, as you saw in this game. I mean, the power of just mass Donzos plus javelins, you essentially have a full ranged army when you think about it. It meant that you couldn't even skirmish or poke and prod. I think the issue of this game goes a little bit deeper, though. Like, it comes down to the left flank. They essentially had to spend so much time bailing out CSO, and Puppy Paw was just a net neutral point because of that, right? Like, there was no gains, there was no real losses